Welcome to our 2023 CISM Live series, where we discuss a variety of crisis intervention topics, interview organizations that help crisis responders, and share resources in crisis response. My name is Kelly with ICISF, and I'll be your host for today's interview. Today, we're joined by guest speaker Conrad Weaver. Conrad is an award-winning producer, president, and owner of Conjos LLC, a video production company based in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Conrad has been telling stories through documentary films for more than 10 years, and his films and work have taken him from the slums of Guatemala and orphanages in Ukraine to the halls of Congress on Capitol Hill and everywhere in between. He's a member of the International Documentary Association, the Documentary Producers Alliance, and the Television and Internet Video Association, and he served on the board of directors for the Emmitsburg Business and Professional Association, and currently serves on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the town of Emmitsburg, Maryland. Whether it's through his films or his podcast, Conrad's goal is to inspire others to live a life of meaning and purpose. Welcome, Conrad.
Well, thanks for having me, Kelly. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. So today we're actually going to be discussing the PTSD911 documentary film and your upcoming Coast to Coast bike and film tour. So what is the PTSD911 Coast to Coast bike and film tour?
So the Coast to Coast bike and film tour is kind of a harebrained idea that I came up with a few years ago to promote the film PTSD911. Which tells a story about first responders, and I'm sure many of your viewers are somewhat familiar with it. So we premiered it in Texas back in November, and now we've been screening it around the country for a few months. And I decided to really raise the bar to bring the film more visibility, and just to connect with first responders across the country by doing something I've wanted to do for a long time, and that's ride a bicycle from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm sore already. And
it hasn't even started yet.
It hasn't even started yet. Well, I'm sore because I've been training, which is a good thing. So I recruited my friend John. I said, "Hey, John, do you want to go on a bike ride?" And he goes, "Sure. Where are we going?" I said, "Well, we're going to go from the Pacific to the Atlantic." And he goes, "Okay." And but it didn't take him long to say yes. And so John and I are riding from Astoria, Oregon to Ocean City, Maryland, launching on May 15th from the West Coast. So really excited. And along the way, we'll stop at cities, and there's a number of cities where we'll have actual screening events for the film, where we're already selling tickets for these events, and we'll be hosting events there with the local first responder communities. Then in the cities in between, where we're just stopping for the night, we're hoping to connect with first responders in those towns, firefighters, police officers, dispatchers, others who are involved in public safety in those small communities along the way, and just connect with them. And if someone hosts us for the night, we'll be happy to share the film with them that night for free, and just have a great time together talking about these issues. So that's kind of the plan in a nutshell. And we'll talk a little bit later about how we're doing this and how we're financially supported and all that. So that's what we're doing.
Well, that's exciting. That's exciting for sure. So explain to me a little bit about why you're doing this and what you hope to accomplish on the tour.
Yeah, I think the film, is really geared to focus on the first responder community, to help first responders themselves better understand how trauma affects their life and how it affects their work life, their home life. And I think many first responders know that this is an issue, but sometimes they don't realize that it's actually affecting them in ways that they may not even realize. And so the film really touches on that to show, okay, maybe I'm not sleeping because I'm dealing with these things that I've experienced. And then what we do with the film is we say, hey, it's okay to ask for help, because as we know, first responders are the helpers, and they're very reluctant oftentimes to raise their hand and say, I need help. because it could be a sign of weakness, could be a sign of, insecurity or whatever. And unfortunately, these days, sometimes they even get ridiculed for that. Just a few weeks ago, I had a call with a woman in North Carolina who that happened, not to her, but to a friend of hers, who was ridiculed for saying, I think I have a problem. And he was called names and ridiculed by his fellow officers. And
Mm,
that's a thing that shouldn't be. And so we want to help kind of start those conversations with this film to say, hey, you know what, it's okay to have these problems. Everyone faces them in some way or another, especially if you're in public safety. And here are some ways we can deal with it. And so the film kind of highlights that, and then highlights some agencies that are doing things really well in providing resources and training and support for their members. And so the purpose of the tour is not only to show the film in these cities and connect with first responders, but really to selfishly to kind of really emphasize the film and get it out there in the public domain, to say, hey, wow, this is a thing. And my goal is kind of lofty. I would love to be on the Today Show or one of those morning TV shows to really say, hey, this is a problem, this is a thing, here's the film, here's a conversation starter for you and for your agency. And so that's what we're hoping that this tour will do. It'll kind of put the film on the map in a way, uh, literally maybe. So that's what we hope to do with the project, and to bring it to communities that may not be even aware of this kind of issue.
Well, and during the last CISM live series that you and I did, it was actually during the production of the PTSD 911 documentary film.
Hmm.
And the goals that you had set for the overall thought process of developing the film was to raise awareness, end the stigma, and inspire systemic change.
Hmm.
Have you seen, based on a lot of the filming screenings that you've
Hmm.
done so far, that's actually been fruitful for a lot of
Yeah,
first responders?
yeah, I believe so, and it's definitely starting those conversations. We were actually in Santa Rosa, California, a few weeks ago, and
Mhm.
I had put an ad in the local paper advertising the film screening event, and we had a gentleman come, and I was, they're receiving people into the lobby of the venue. And so I asked this gentleman, he was by himself, and I said, well, how did you hear about the film? What? He said, well, I saw the ad in the paper and I didn't know this was a problem.
Mm,
And so I wanted to learn about it. And so here was just a citizen, not anyone in public safety, just a citizen who saw the promo for the film and was like, wow, this is a problem I didn't know about. Let me go learn more. And so that was a sign to me that, yeah, the public wants to know about this. They are interested in that. And then, of course, the with the other two, where we want to say, hey, it's okay to ask for help. We're having these deep conversations after every screening. We are putting together a panel of local people to talk about what they do. In fact, I really like to dig into our panelists and say, what do you do? What's your process of wellness? What do you do to maintain your sense of wellness? And we have some very honest conversations. In fact, I was in Ohio for an event, and I had a police chief sitting next to me, and she's in the city of Springfield, Ohio. And I asked the panel, what do you do to maintain your sense of wellness? And the chief of police said, you know what, I want to be brutally honest, I'm not doing so well. And so she, there in front of her peers, in front of her, her officers in the room and other, citizens of her community, she was able to admit, I'm not doing so well right now, and doing that. And so it's getting that thought process going with these individuals to really focus on, if I don't take care of myself,
mhm.
how am I going to take care of others? Because then if I'm in a bad place, then that's all I can think about and that's all I can focus on. And I'm not going to be much good to other people, the people that I'm supposed to be helping. And my opinion is that's why things end up on the evening news. That's why stories end up on the evening news, because we have people who aren't taking care of themselves. Uh, uh, and there's other reasons too, but I think that plays a big factor in some of these stories that made national news, that they haven't been taking care of themselves. And I think it's time that not only organizationally that first responders and in public safety take care of themselves as an
Mhm.
organization, but I think individually becomes an individual responsibility as well. And so, then the last point of really inspiring systemic change, I think some of those conversations are happening now um,
Mhm.
as a result of the film. I can't quantitatively verify that, but it's definitely opened up the door for conversations in the areas that we've had screening events. And so it's a powerful thing to see that those conversations happen.
Well, and to even see that, several individuals are actually starting to talk,
Yeah.
themselves about, or even being open and honest, surrounding their troubles,
Yeah.
that in and of itself, every individual has a ripple effect, right?
Yeah. Right.
So you get one person to start to talk about issues that they're having, and it kind of encourages others to speak
Sure.
as well.
And the stories we feature in the film are a little extreme.
Hmm.
We have some really deep people who have been hurt very deeply and are suffering very greatly. So that kind of is the extreme, and not everybody is at that point. Some people are at that point or beyond, but not everybody's there. But I think what it does, especially like our firefighter Maddie, here's a big guy, tattoos everywhere, uh, good-looking guy, talking about having a suicide attempt
Hmm.
and the struggles of that. And I think it gives permission to the viewer to say, you know what, yeah, I have thoughts like that too. And it gives them permission to say something. Um, and then seeing, Maddie's recovery and his journey to wellness and his continuing journey to wellness, because, if your heart's beating, there's always going to be issues, right? And
Hmm.
so it's a lifelong journey that he's taking, that everyone needs to take. And I think those stories help open those conversations to first responders who may not typically be willing to talk.
Hmm.
So
So back to the Coast to Coast Bike and Film Tour. Who's sponsoring, supporting, and helping with the upcoming tour?
yeah, so when I started putting this thing together and kind of figuring out how we're going to do this, the first thing that came to my mind is like, okay, first we need some bikes. I had a nice road bike, but it was kind of a racing bike, and it wasn't really
Mhm.
designed to ride 3,700 miles across the country carrying a bunch of stuff with it. And so, and I want to back up before that. I've been wanting to do a coast to coast ride for 20 some years. I had friends have done it, and it was always on my bucket list, so to speak.
So long
And
before the PTSD
long before
documentary
this film
film.
was even a twinkle in my eye, I had a desire to do this. And so during COVID, many of us were locked into our homes, and we were flipping through YouTube, and one day I discovered this YouTube channel and this YouTuber named Ryan Van Duzer, and he doesn't even own a car. He just rides his bike everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And so we started following him, started watching his adventures. He's ridden coast to coast like 3 times, one time on a Walmart bicycle, like a 3-speed. Literally, he bought a 3-speed bike at Walmart and rode it across the country. And so on one of his trips, just a few years ago, he and his girlfriend were coming across the country. And so my wife and I were watching that series, and I was like, man, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. I need to do this. And so I actually reached out to Ryan, and I said, Ryan, I messaged him on Instagram and said, hey, I love your videos. I love your channel. Um, I have a podcast. It was called the My Story podcast at the time. And so I said, well, I'd love to have you on my show. And he responded and said, of course, I'll be on your show. And so a few weeks later, here we were sitting on Zoom, and I was talking to Ryan Van Duzer on my YouTube, on my computer. And I was like, this is crazy. Well, Ryan is sponsored by Priority Bicycles. Priority
Oh.
Bicycles is a company out of Manhattan, New York, that creates a bicycle that has a carbon fiber belt drive. It has no chain drive. And
Interesting.
so he's been a huge proponent of this bike. He talks about it all the time. He helped actually design like the mountain bike version of the Priority bike.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we decided to say yes to this coast to coast ride for first responders, I reached out to Ryan and said, hey, Ryan, any chance you could make an introduction to us to the guys at Priority Bicycles? Because we kind of need a couple of wheels to make this trip.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, of course. And one email later, I got an email back from the head of marketing for Priority Bicycles. He said, let's get on a Zoom call. Let's talk. And so we did. And Priority was like, what do you need? It's like, well, we need 2 bikes. He goes, well, okay, we got that covered. What else do you need? And so it was that simple. And we went up to New York in December and picked up our bicycles and actually met Ryan there in person and just had a fantastic time. You can actually watch that video on our YouTube channel of our time there at Priority Bicycles. And so Priority was our first sponsor who said yes, but obviously we need funding to make a trip across the country, you know, spending 60 days on the road and sleeping and food and all the stuff that we need. And so I put together a thing, kind of a sponsorship thing, and our friend Joe Ramirez from Lighthouse Health and Wellness messaged me and he said, hey, you know, I sponsored your film. I want to be along for the ride for this coast to coast tour. And so Priority Health and Wellness is our presenting sponsor for our coast to coast bike ride. And not only is Joe our sponsor or a Lighthouse Health and Wellness our sponsor, but Joe and his friend are also going to be our support crew. Win-win. You know, John and I were prepared to ride across the country solo with no help, just schlepping all of our gear and our, you know, food and whatever else we need. And Joe stepped up and said, not only we're going to help fund your tour, but we're going to come along and be there for your ride. So they'll be able to carry some of our heavier gear and just give us support that we need along the way. So it's a win-win. So really excited to have Priority Bicycles and Lighthouse Health and Wellness on board as our primary sponsors for this tour.
Well, we've always here at ICISF, we've always been a fan of Joe and Lighthouse Health and Wellness and the things that they're doing within their organization. So I'm happy to hear that they're going to be a priority sponsor for the upcoming tour.
Yeah, and you know, we got some really exciting things in the works behind the scenes, working with Lighthouse Health and Wellness and related to the app and the film. So I can't go into a lot of details there, but there's some things stirring. So be ready to get some exciting information soon. So
we are definitely excited to hear more. Joe is constantly doing, you know, great things. So
yeah, and I encourage anyone if you don't have an app for your organization, I really encourage you to check out Lighthouse Health and Wellness. They have a free version, I believe, that any organization can access. And so I encourage you to check it out. And they're really providing some amazing resources there through that app and through the work that they're doing. And when the work that we're going to be working on together is going to be even super exciting. So yeah, looking forward to it. Yep.
Tell me a little bit about what is the route of your tour?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we are starting from Astoria, Oregon, actually a little bit west of Astoria, Oregon, which is about 2 hours west of Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Right on the Pacific coast. And we're going to dip our back wheels in the Pacific Ocean. And then we'll go through Portland, and then Portland through the Columbia River up to Missoula, Montana. And Missoula, Montana, we'll drop down to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. That's going to be an amazing segment, about a week in the mountains. We'll probably be super tired after that. And then from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, we're going to cut across Wyoming to Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and then up through the Sandhills in Nebraska and down to Omaha, and then Omaha to Des Moines, Des Moines to the Quad Cities, Moline, Illinois. Actually, I think our screening event is in what's the one of the Quad Cities? It's in the Quad Cities area. I forget the name of it. Oh, it's Davenport, Iowa is our screening
Okay.
event. And then from there, we'll go to Peoria, Illinois, Indianapolis, Indiana, Cincinnati, Ohio, Wheeling, West Virginia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, down through, we're going to take a bypass the Allegheny Mountains and go on the rail trail
Mhm.
into Maryland and out to Frederick County, Maryland. Then we'll go up to Westminster, Maryland, Havre de Grace, Maryland, Dover, Delaware, and then the big finale in Ocean City, Maryland, where we're going to actually end the ride at the 9/11 Memorial right there in Ocean City on the
Wow.
boardwalk. So there's on the boardwalk there on the southern end of the boardwalk in Ocean City, there's a 9/11 Memorial. And that's where we're going to end the ride. So that's going to be a big deal. We're going to hopefully get a lot of media coverage there and have a lot of people there. We got people already flying up to Astoria, Oregon for us to be
Mhm.
there for the launch. And we got people coming to Ocean City, Maryland for the big finale. And we'll probably announce soon where you can get tickets for the finale party. We're going to have a big party at one of the local venues there in Ocean City. And so we're going to have tickets for that for sale really soon. So we'll let you know when those are available.
And you still have tickets for sale for some of the viewings
Yes,
throughout
for
your
all the
tour as
viewings,
well.
for all the
Okay.
viewings. We don't have some of the cities that we're doing viewings at, we don't have tickets ready yet because we're still confirming the venues.
Mhm.
Um, but we'll have those up very soon. But we have the entire list, including all the towns in between the big towns,
Mhm.
on our website. So if you go to our website, you can check out that. And if you are in one of those areas and would like to host us for the night, we have a tent. We can sleep in your backyard, or if you have a nice, comfy bed, I'll sleep in that too. So, if you want to host us for the night, we'd love to meet you, see you, and be there. I know across Iowa, we have every town we're going to be in Iowa, we have a firehouse to stay at. So they had someone set that up for us. So that's pretty
That's
cool.
incredible.
Yeah. So
Oh my goodness.
that was kind of one of our goals is because I know many firehouses have bunk rooms, they have
Mhm.
showers, and they have food, so three essentials that you need for a bike tour. So, um, showers be good to shower every couple of days anyway. So,
Yeah. Well, and growing up in firehouses myself, I know that the food is pretty incredible by most of the men and women that actually cook in the firehouses.
they know
So
how to cook. They know how
they
to do
do.
it right. Yeah. May not always be the most healthy, but it's going to be good.
It's gonna be good regardless, and you'll need your fuel for all of that
Exactly. For
travel.
lots of carbs, lots of carbs.
So who are you hoping to connect with along the way?
Yeah, we're really wanting to connect with anyone in public safety,
Mm,
especially the leaders in public safety, whether you're in the fire service or in law enforcement or dispatch or any other area of public safety. Would love to connect with those folks. And if we're at a screening event in your city, please come out, please support it, buy a ticket, buy your friends tickets, come out. If we're coming through your community, we don't have a big screening event planned. Also, if you have a firehouse and your city's on our route and you want to host us for the night, we'll do a free screening for your firehouse if we can stay there. So there's a little plug for you. So if you're in one of those towns along our route and want to host us at a firehouse, we'll show the movie for free. So that's we
if
just want
that's
to.
not a good incentive, I don't know what
I
is.
know, right? If for a place to sleep. I mean, we'll even pitch our tent on the lawn if we have to, as long as we have a spot to sleep. So that would be great. If you have a bunk room, that's even better. As long as, of course, tones will probably go off, 2:30 in the morning. That might be a challenge, but that's okay. That's
Depends
okay.
on the city.
It depends on the city, right? Right.
Mhm.
So,
Well,
so
that's awesome. So where can we learn more information and how can we support the tour?
yeah. So if you go to PTSD911movie.com, there's a button there. It says Coast to Coast Tour or something like that. You can just go there, check it out. You can not only follow us. In fact, once the tour is live on May 15th, we launch. Once the tour is live, we'll actually have a button there that you can track us in real time. So you'll be able to go to Ride with GPS. They are the organization that we're using their app on the phone. And there's a live uplink that we're going to send to the website that anybody can track us in real time. Whether that's a good idea or not, I'm not sure, but we're going to do it anyway, right? So if you want to know,
I mean, if anything, people will know how to find you.
they'll know how to find us. I know that could be good, it could be bad, right? So we do also, I mean, we've had people ask if they can ride along. We don't mind day riders. We will not take anyone more than just a segment at a time, just because that's more logistics that we don't want to have to deal with. But if you want to join us for a day or a part of a day, and you kind of know where we're at, you're welcome to do that. The first couple of weeks are going to be kind of challenging for us, just because of some of the hardest terrain to go over. So we'll be in training for those 2 weeks, but after that, we're going to be pretty much lean, mean bike riding machines, and we're not going to slow down for anybody. So just fair warning, if you come join us for a day, you got to keep up with us. We're not going to, you know, we have a destination we have to get to, just because we have a pretty tight schedule that we have to adhere to. And so, but you are welcome to join us, especially that last day from Dover, Delaware to Ocean City, Maryland. It's really flat, I believe. At least the last half of it is there along the coastline. So if you want to join us for that, it'd be great to have a bunch of people on the last leg. So, and if you want to come join us for the launch in Astoria. Astoria is a beautiful town. I've never been there, but I've heard it's a really beautiful city and community there on the coast of Oregon. Join us on May 12th. We'll be arriving in Astoria. I'll be there May 12th, 13th, and 14th. And then the 15th, Monday the 15th, we start pedaling. So,
well, and from what I understand and what I've seen on your website, those that can't actually participate actively about visiting the locations, they can sponsor miles, they can sponsor state.
Absolutely.
A whole bunch of different sponsorship options.
If you want to, like, I had a friend email us and say, hey, where can I help? Where can I add to Conrad's granola bar, you know, cash or whatever? So there's a way to do that if you want to sponsor a mile. But here's the other thing I want to announce today. We don't have it set up yet, but we are also going to be raising money to help first responders directly. We're going to have a link set up where you can make a donation, and 100% of that donation will go to an organization that we're working with that will help first responders directly. And so we're hoping to raise $10 a mile for that fundraiser, which is $37,000, and that all that will go to help first responders directly. So we're in the process of getting that arranged and finalized, and once it's live, we'll put it up on the website and people can donate to that. So that would be great to support first responders directly. So
we'll make sure to put all of the links, not just to the locations that you're going to be visiting, but also the promotional video of the bike and everything in the description of our CISM Live series recording from today. So that's exciting.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for this opportunity. And I just, I can't wait to see you guys at the World Congress. We'll be there.
Yay!
I don't want to steal your thunder on that, but
we'll be talking about that here towards the end of today. But we are very, very excited to have you present the PTSD 911 documentary film in the upcoming World Congress. Our focus this year is going to be the power of purpose. Which
is perfect because I have a podcast called Explore Purpose. And my mission in life is to help others live out their purpose. So, because when we live with purpose, we make greater impact.
That's very true. So it matches all the way around. And so just want to say thank you, Conrad, for joining me today to discuss the Coast to Coast Bike and Film Tour. To you, our viewers, if you enjoyed the discussion today and would like to sponsor a mile, view the tour schedule, or wear your support for health and wellness, you can actually visit the link in the description. It's also PTSD911movie.com/coast to coast. The Coast to Coast Bike and Film Tour will be launching May 15th. So stay tuned for more information on that on their website. And as Conrad did mention, he will be premiering the PTSD 911 documentary film, followed by a question and answer session during the World Congress 17, The Power of Purpose. You can learn more about his presentation and others by visiting ICISFworldcongress.org. And we'll also link our previous CISM live series discussion with Conrad, which takes a deep dive into the PTSD 911 documentary, and the ICISF press release in the description below. You can follow us on social media for more CISM-related news, articles, and learn more about all of our upcoming trainings at icisf.org. And if you'd like today's discussion, be sure to give this video a thumbs up on our YouTube and even subscribe to our podcast channels to be notified when we post more content. Until the next discussion, please remain safe and healthy.